The campaigns wrangle with the rhetoric this weekend. The question is, how will voters react, if at all, to this? And well before this latest bout, there was a new general election tracking poll that we were watching. It shows that Clinton is up by 1% nationally with 59 days to go. She was down in this LA Times USC tracking poll in previous weeks. So that's a change. Joining us now is Jessica Proud, Republican strategist and partner at the November team, and David Goodfriend, a Democratic strategist and former deputy staff secretary to President Bill Clinton. Great to have both of you here. And you know, when you look at these comments here, we'll start with you, Jessica, since you're in the House here. These comments that are coming from Hillary Clinton, they are a little bit different. They are a little bit sharper. She has used the words before. As we were hearing from Casey, the difference here is the word half. But the difference really is when you look at what's happening with Donald Trump, he's used such, if you will, extremities of the language much more frequently. How do you put this in context?
Well, Donald Trump has shown an ability to do that and get away with it, but this was really an insight into her thinking. And when you look at those polls, the country is split right now. So she just essentially insulted about a quarter of the country right now. So clean up in aisle 4. Clearly, they're trying to walk it back. But you know, how these candidates talk behind closed doors when they're in these fundraisers. Mitt Romney obviously learned the lesson the hard way from that. You have to remember, in today's day and age, running for president, every word you say is subject to be attacked and have scrutiny.
Certainly. And David, some might say from her base, this is what we want to hear. You're firing us up. You're saying the things that we're thinking. This is what Donald Trump has been doing himself day after day, if not moment by moment.
Yeah, first of all, just one thing my Republican colleague just said, I want to clarify. I think I've read in press reports that the event where she made these remarks was in fact open, that she knew that there would be reporters there, that these things were on the record. I don't think there was sort of an oops moment like there was with Mitt Romney, where somebody had to put a phone camera up there. This was out in the open. I mean, she knew exactly what she was doing. And I think what you just said rings true, which is we do have a very close race right now. How are you going to motivate your voters to get out? And look, Donald Trump has to try to make himself look palatable to mainstream America. But I'm sorry, we have to remind Americans that he has said racist, white supremacist, anti-Mexican, anti-everybody. I mean, the number of groups this guy has insulted is almost staggering. You can't run away from that. And Hillary Clinton, I think, is absolutely playing it smart here to say this is somebody who has played the race card.
Do you think she'll do this? Do you think that she will increase, if you will, the sharpness of her words? This is the beginning of 59 days where she's going to be very much overt about those sorts of comments.
Yeah, yes, I do, and here's why. I think that the only way Donald Trump can win right now is by increasing the number of supporters he has, because in most polls what we see is he's behind in the electoral vote count. So he has to try to expand his support somehow. She needs to cut that off at the pass, remind people that this is a guy who has put white supremacist rhetoric on his own Twitter feed. This is a guy who has embraced anti-immigrant, anti-Mexican American rhetoric. Let's trot that out there and see how many more people Trump can add to his supporters at that point.
You know, one of the things that we're watching here, and it was brought up by Katie here, is what will happen in the polls, right, as they are very, very close. And we were just mentioning that in one poll that we're watching out of the LA Times and USC, a bit of a switch, because previously when we were looking at the numbers here, Jessica, what was showing was that Donald Trump was leading in this tracking poll, but a switch, interestingly enough, that now she is leading by 1 percentage point. This, as other battleground state polls show some tightening.
Right, and if you look at those battleground states where this race will ultimately be decided, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida, the comment that she just made is so insulting to working class Americans. That's the code language that she is using. White voters that may not have a college education. It's the classic elitist Democratic Party label that she's been able to, you know, effectively try to hide, but she has a long history of this with her $1,000 speeches. So this is going to play right into that narrative on her, and I think it will end up hurting her, especially in these battleground states.
David, I want to get your response, David, but I do have this response coming from Hillary Clinton, the Democratic nominee. We're just getting this in a reaction to what has been the reaction to her statements. And it says here, quote, "Last night I was grossly generalistic, and that's never a good idea. I regret saying half. That was wrong. But let's be clear, what's really deplorable is that Donald Trump hired a major advocate for the so-called alt-right movement to run his campaign, and that David Duke and other white supremacists see him as a champion of their values. And she goes on. So, you know, Dave, this is somewhat similar to the comments and remarks you were making a little bit earlier in this segment. React to, first of all, Secretary Clinton's new statement here saying that she was grossly generalistic. Those were her words. And that she also said that's never a good idea.
Yeah, she said that when she actually made the remarks. I'm going to be grossly generalistic here, and then she went on to make her remarks. Look.
And that she regrets saying half. I mean, do you also think it wasn't a good idea?
No, look, I mean, anytime you spit out a number, you're opening yourself up to somebody saying, wait, you miscounted. But I think the concept is straight up correct, and that is when Donald Trump goes about trying to elicit reactions among supporters, anti-immigrant feelings, anti-Mexican feelings, anti-African-American feelings, look, those who live by the sword must die by the sword. Those words will come back to him, and I hope that she does keep bringing it to him. Now, I will say one thing. My friend again mentioned here that the polls have tightened. That is all correct. But I also think it's important to point out that we're seeing a trend where Donald Trump's statements, the things that are brought out about him, often have a longer shelf life. And I'm thinking in particular about the fine that he had to pay the IRS for allegedly trying to stop an investigation against his university. Sometimes these things have an extra life that I think has outlasted the Hillary bashing, which seems to be repetitive. We always hear about the foundation or emails. That's important because, again, what Donald Trump is trying to do is broaden his support at a time when he has to get the upper hand. These stories that have the extra long shelf life about him are lasting and I think hurting his ability to do that. And that's a very important development.
And we will see what the shelf life of this comment will be, as we have just gotten, as I was just mentioning to you two, my friends, that Secretary Clinton again issuing that statement saying she regrets saying half, and that was wrong. And that was her recent statement that just came in within the last 5 minutes into us here at MSNBC. Stick around. Thank you, Jessica Proud, David Goodfriend. You're going to be with us later this hour, and thank you for being here for now.